And we're back with Mary Trump to talk about her uncle's legal problems that he's in the middle of right now. Mary, I did want to bump in from our commercial break with that audio because you hear your uncle there talking about this civil fraud trial that's underway in New York. He's expected to testify on Monday. He's been sort of repeating the same excuses over and over again, saying that the banks weren't cheated, the banks were very happy with what he's done and how his businesses are great and so on. But at the heart of this case is how he and his company are accused of inflating the value of various assets in his empire, his business empire, his real estate empire. I'm just curious what you think about this, Barry. I mean, how important is all of this to him? And I mean, what do you think about the very real possibility that, his businesses could just go up, in smoke, depending on what this judge decides to do?
Well, first of all, what Donald does not seem to understand, his expert witness notwithstanding, is that as far as I'm aware, I'm not a lawyer, but as far as I'm aware, the matter of whether or not fraud was committed has already been adjudicated by the judge. Right. And he's the only one whose opinion matters here. But because this is so important to Donald, he's going to keep pushing that narrative. In fact, I think we can say safely that there is literally nothing more important to him, certainly in terms of his legal woes, than this civil trial in New York, because it gets at the heart of everything he's pretended he was for his entire life. A loss here, despite the serious financial implications, which are, of course, extraordinarily important to him. But a loss would also mean that it has finally been proven, if not to him, at least to many other people, that he is not now and never has been anything he's claimed to be. He's not a business savant. He's not a brilliant entrepreneur or a phenomenally successful real estate developer. He's a fraud who was enabled by my grandfather for his entire adult life, who essentially will be known as the one person most responsible for squandering his father's very real empire, which Donald had absolutely nothing to do with building.
And Mary, I'm sure you've been following this as we have as well, but all through these trials and the process of these court cases that are on the horizon for Trump when it comes to January 6th, whether it's the federal case, the one down in Georgia, the documents case. One of the through lines in all of this is how Trump has been going after judges and prosecutors and the special counsel, and he's even talked about the clerk in the New York civil fraud trial. What is going on there? What are your thoughts on all of that? I mean, is this is just who he is? This is what he does?
It's who he is and it's what he does, but we also need to be very clear. The reason he gets away with it and continues to do it is because he's allowed to. Nobody else in his position would be allowed to continue attacking people, endangering lives of people, and he has actual power. If an average person on the street was in this kind of legal jeopardy and started attacking court officers, they don't have millions of people hanging on their every word. We have court officers and prosecutors and families getting very serious death threats because of Donald's rhetoric. And I mean, at this point, we need to be very concerned about stochastic terrorism. And yet, nobody is willing to rein him in. And I believe part of that must be because they want to preserve the case, protect the case from his inevitable appeal. But it's still incredibly galling that he is allowed to behave this way because it is so dangerous, and it just shows you what a double standard there is when it comes to justice in this country.
At the end of the day, Mary, what do you think happens? I know it's hard to predict things this far out, and your uncle, despite what folks might want to say about him, he has defied predictions over and over again. How does this country weather this storm? Does it weather this storm? Or does Trump get back into the White House and win and make these cases go away? What do you think happens?
Well, I think it is almost certainly inevitable that he will be the Republican nominee, barring unforeseen circumstances. So, it will be a contest again between President Biden and Donald Trump. So given that, I think it's going to depend in part on the legal calendar, when he has to show up, which trials are going forward. But I think at the end of the day, unfortunately, too much time was allowed to pass. Too much has been allowed to get normalized. Too many lies have been injected into the bloodstream of the American voter. So way too many people think that Joe Biden didn't win legitimately. Way too many people don't take January 6th seriously anymore. So we have a lot of work to do. One, educating people, and two, just kind of getting to the basic work of protecting democracy and helping people understand just how unbelievable it is that we're even at this place. The idea that somebody like Donald Trump got elected once is bad enough. But the idea that he could be elected again is something that no American should want. And I think we need to make the case that this would be bad for all Americans, except those Americans that Donald chooses to enrich and empower with a second administration. I think also, though, we need to be very honest about one of the biggest reasons we're here. This has been decades in the making between gerrymandering and voter suppression and voter subversion. Democrats have to outperform Republicans in very significant ways, and that cannot continue. It is unsustainable that every election in our lifetime be the most important election in our lifetime. It is unsustainable that every election is a choice between saving American democracy or falling into an autocracy. So hopefully we can get that message out, because Donald is good at very few things. One of them, though, is finding weaknesses in the system and weaknesses in people, and he will exploit those to the fullest extent that he can.
All right, Mary Trump, it was great to talk to you. Thanks for giving us a little extra time in your day today. Would love to have you back soon, but in the meantime, thanks very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, and coming up, a developing story out of